Thank you, Mr. Chair and all of council. So the next piece that was on the list was staffing shortages and working from home. I can confirm that Paul can speak to specifically to Manluck and the shortages, but as far as the working from home, we do have about half a dozen agreements with staff where they can work from home 2 days a week and they need to be in the office 3 days a week. And part of this kind of came out of COVID and what we learned in saying, so long as we can provide consistent levels of service and customer service, then we need to be flexible in allowing staff who can to work from home occasionally. We tried to balance it with making sure that there was still team building that was happening in the organization. And so the teams are expected to have some overlap in the office, not only for coverage, but also so that they're spending time together and still bonding as a team. That is part of our attraction and retention strategy too, as the GMs sat down and said, you know, this is a really good opportunity for us where some other communities might not be offering that. If we do, it will help us attract and retain high quality staff. But we are monitoring that to make sure that that we can still provide proper levels of service and customer service. And then Paul can speak to the Manluck stuff.
My only concern is not the intention of using it as a working incentive and so forth. My concern is how do we ensure that the community, in wanting to get hold of some of these people, and I think some of these people are key people in our organization, are being able to get through to them. One of the things that we heard often in any surveys of the community is I leave messages and nobody calls me back, or I try and reach somebody and I can't get somebody, or I'm flipped to somebody else to solve my problem. And my concern is, I guess, a question. Does working from home compound this problem?
Yeah, so this is a discussion that we've had at senior leadership and at leadership team, and it's been made clear to the managers and all of the staff that this is a part of our customer service, and that has to be maintained regardless of whether they're in the office or working from home. And if that's not happening, then the general managers will deal with that. Do you want to hear about Manluck?
And you're on to number 5, I guess. Unless there's other questions.
Yeah, did you want to hear about Manluck?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sure, please.
Good evening, committee. Just an update on the Manluck Center. So as you folks are probably aware, the entire province of Alberta is currently under a lifeguard shortage. This is a result of opening up after their pandemic. With the pandemic shutoffs and temporary layoffs, lifeguards have become a hard to come by resource. Either lifeguards are unavailable when we need them, or they need to recertify their lifeguard training, which is causing shortages in staff capacity. So just so you folks are aware, lifeguard recertifications expire every 2 years, and our lifeguards need to recertify based on course availability. These staff shortages that we're experiencing are directly impacting our ability to provide service to the community. Currently, we are short approximately 150 hours a week to be able to offer the same level of programming as the community was expecting at the Manluck in 2019, which was a pre-COVID year. We are currently not able to offer school swimming lessons, homeschool lessons, or private lessons. And the staff is providing, but at a reduced capacity, Red Cross lessons, public swim times, orcas, and aquafit classes. The standard that we strive for, and in alignment with the Life Saving Society, is a 3-guard public swim, which can accommodate up to 140 patrons. To meet this requirement, we require 5 lifeguards plus a shift supervisor, which would provide 45-minute on-deck rotations, change room checks, cleaning, first aid, swim tests, and customer complaints. One of the things that we've noticed as we've been struggling with the staff shortages is that currently the Manlick Center is quite dependent on part-time staff. We do not have shift minimums, which means that this lifeguard shortage impacts us more than other municipalities that staff more full-time staff. Our recreation department is currently reviewing the lifeguard staffing model through programs and service review, and administration will be bringing back those recommendations around staffing as part of this review. In the short term, I asked my Manlick staff this morning to provide some recommendations on how we might be able to both enhance the level of service to the community while at the same time try to encourage part-time lifeguarders to be employed with the city of Wetaskiwin. They have identified 3 recommendations that we could do to mitigate this risk. The first is that currently on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons from 1 to 4 p.m. specifically, it's a quiet time for the Manlick. Staff recommend perhaps closing Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, which would free up about 12 lifeguard hours a week. Those hours could then be used to utilize them for busier public swim times on the evenings and weekends to ensure that we can consistently accommodate our 3-guard swims. So to be able to change that service level, council, I would need a motion, but just to, from our Manlick staff to you here this afternoon, as far as enhancing the level of service when the public is using the Manlick most, which is both evenings and weekends, we would have to close Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. If we want to keep it the same, we can do so, but we are limited on evenings and weekends, and that ability to meet that 3-guard minimum, which essentially is us having enough part-time staff to accommodate the hours that we need to be able to make it happen. The second thing is to look at facilitating free lifeguard courses. We learned this morning that the city of Leduc is currently doing this to encourage lifeguards to come to work at their pool. So it's something we can look at. Cost to facilitate for 8 candidates would be about $3,000. So something we would look at to see how effective that might be. And the last, as I spoke to before, we're aware that we are very highly dependent on part-time staff. That presents an incredible risk. And we're noticing right now that without the shift minimums and with the part-time staff, we literally just need more part-time staff to come to the pool, to come work at the pool. In the absence of that, in the absence of more full-time employment, we are really dependent on that labor force to meet our service standards, which presents a risk. So that's the end of my report there. I can answer any questions you folks might have on the Manlick staffing situation.
Oh, that's me. What's the differential on a full-time, part-time employee and a full-time permanent employee? And I guess by that, I mean, if we add up 2 or 3 high school kids to be 40 hours a week versus actually having a permanent lifeguard on staff for 40 hours a week, what kind of dollar differential would that be, Paul?
As far as cost goes,
Yes.
looking for the cost, I don't have that information on me what the difference in cost would be. I don't know that I think the advantage of going with the full-time is that we know that they're committed and they're coming back. With the part-time, they could say, phone in a week saying, I'm sick, I'm burnt out, I've got class, I've got other things. And so by going more part-time, we are at the risk of staff just not calling in sick or not coming to work.
And I guess that's what I was thinking is given the number of part-time people we have, would we be better off biting the bullet and going to more full-time permanent staff, even though it may cost more in order to provide a service to the community?
Yeah, through the chair to the committee. Absolutely, that's something that your logic is sound, I think. We are doing a program and service review to ensure that we look at all of the staffing before we start making changes on the staffing model right now. The best we can do at this point in time, as I mentioned before, was to essentially adjust the service hours to enhance the service level on both evenings and weekends. Is something that we could do if council was to put a motion in to approve that this evening. Outside of that, we're really cautious to make too many changes on the lifeguard front right now, given that we haven't finished that review. That review should be done, it's anticipated to be done here before the end of the year. Yeah, that's
Sorry, just to clarify too, it would be a motion at the next meeting because we've already concluded our regular council meeting.
And just to be flip, maybe one of the solutions is to create working from home benefits for the lifeguards. Maybe we could hire some more lifeguards. Anyway, being facetious, sorry. Sue, back to you. Oh, sorry, Gabby. I was on a swivel. I wish I could sit up higher.
It's okay.
Get your boosters.
So Paul, I was made aware that the treatment of our staff members has been terrible by the public. Apparently, the staff members that we do have been harassed and abused on a daily basis, but on an hourly basis. And they're getting ridiculed, called names, having racist remarks made to them. I'm getting concerned about the part-time staff members we do have potentially leaving at this point as well. And so I was wondering what we can do for staff wellness to retain those staff members.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Blatz, that's a great observation. And through when I was speaking with Natasha this morning, our staff are exhibiting burnout. They're dealing with very stressful situations that perhaps they're not trained to deal with. And so our Manitowoc staff and supervisors are watching that closely. As far as the mitigation strategy is concerned, it's a grave concern, but providing that training, similar to lifeguard training, providing how to deal with difficult customers training, which I believe we actually are providing as an organization as part of our internal university here. So that's something we could absolutely look at for those staff. But your point around the burnout and some of the comments that we're receiving are accurate. And that's also leading to staff phoning in and saying, okay, well, I'm just not going to come to work today. It's a challenge that not just the city of Wetaskiwin is facing, but right across the province.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions before I turn back to Sue? Sue.
Thank you. I had one other thing that I wanted to talk about that I forgot is on here, but the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Kathy and I are really struggling right now. We have 2 days set aside on the 23rd and 24th to meet with Aquaterra to go over costs to operate. We need to nail down the operational strategies before we can finalize all the documents and bring forward the public business model and bring it forward to council for consideration. So on the 23rd, 24th, we'll meet with them all day. And the expectation is that within 1 to 2 weeks, we should have an updated cost estimate from them and then be able to come forward with a recommendation after that. So this is likely something that is going to be coming to the new council really early on in November, the first meeting in November, to get direction to go forward, maybe even the late October, the first council meeting, to get further direction to do the public engagement piece and then move forward from there. But just wanted to let you know it's been delayed, and the reason is we're really diligent in trying to make sure that whatever option we go with is the cheapest possible solution for our ratepayers with operations of wastewater treatment. And the last piece I wanted to get a little bit of clarification on, and recognizing that we're in COW and that there can't be any motions, what I will do is describe what we have planned. And if council has a different understanding of what services should be provided for the encampment, then of course that could potentially come to the next meeting. So there has been a lot of discussion with AHS. You know what? Maybe I'm going to let Paul speak to this because he has all of the history in the background and what we have planned and what is being requested of us, but we are saying, no, we don't think we should be providing that right now. And so he'll just give you a snapshot of what we're doing and make sure we're on the same page as council.
Hello again, committee. To Sue's point with the homeless encampment, our administration is meeting as part of the homeless encampment task force that AHS is leading to ensure provision of services to the vulnerable population. We meet weekly. There has been a lot of pressure from AHS at those meetings to provide more. And so I had a conversation with Dr. Kumar this afternoon with just their concerns after visiting the homeless encampment last week, end of last week, about not providing what AHS is deeming the basics of, some of the basics. So what we are providing right now, provided a parcel of land out by Walmart We've provided some a fire pit. We've put some asphalt crush down to minimize the fire damage. We've put some toilets out there. We have put some bins out there. And the city is responsible or is taking the responsibility to clean the toilets and to pick up the garbage. We have firewood at the Wetaskiwin dump. We have made agencies that are helping AHS, specifically Open Door and Rock Soup, aware that if the homeless encampment needs the firewood, that you can more than welcome to take it. So firewood. What we aren't providing are what we're deeming our consumables. So we were providing hand sanitizer, but we've had a lot of theft of hand sanitizer. So our position with AHS was that needs to be provided, absolutely, but not through the city. We aren't providing food. That is being provided right now through a number of agencies, and we don't believe that we should provide that, nor does AHS. But the AHS is coming back to us to say, you're not meeting your minimum housing standard. So you're not providing water, you're not providing power. We have put poles out for solar lights, understanding that agencies might get donations and take it upon themselves to take that, or AHS might fund those. So I guess what I'm looking for, just as a general expectation, is, do you agree with our approach we've taken? Do you feel that no, water and power and all those other things that AHS is asking for, as far as the minimum housing standard, is something that you'd like to see administration provide and the city provide? Or are we okay to take the position that no, we've provided the space and consumables. Consumables are the responsibility of other levels of government and or agencies here in town. So I guess I'll leave it up to that for questions or clarification.
Okay.
So what if we said to AHS, no, we're not going to give power. No, we're not going to give water. Whatever. I mean, whatever they're asking that we should do as a minimum. What recourse do they have against us? Say, no, we're not prepared to provide those services.
That is a great question, and I asked that at 9:15 this morning, or whatever time it was. Essentially, what would happen if they really wanted to flex their muscle, and we said no, we can't provide these things, and they wanted to, they could essentially issue us health OHS, or sorry, health and safety, get the health inspector on our backs essentially, and it would start with a warning letter to the city on behalf of AHS, and then it would escalate like that. Now, I don't know it would go that way, but that's essentially in the brief conversation we had. That's when Tara and I were trying to figure out how this could play out. That was the conversation we briefly had. It was a very informal conversation. I noted that this council and the committee were having these conversations this afternoon, and that this task force does meet again tomorrow afternoon. So I wanted just to ensure that administration was in line with your expectations for, are you okay with just providing what we provided so far and pushing back on consumables? It would be very embarrassing from an administration's perspective if we were pushing back, and then politically it ended up with mayor and council and you disagreed. So that's why we're just trying to gather, are we in line with your expectations or not?
No, I think basically we're right on track, just the bare minimum, and that's what the whole thing was a temporary encampment. So I'm fine with what we got, status quo.
Gabby?
I'm fine about what we're doing.
When you talk about water, are you talking about running water, or are you talking about like just consumable water?
Consumable water. The expectation by AHS, they understand that the winter emergency shelter group was meeting, and that there is something else happening that's a little bit more has more structure to it than a winter encampment. And so right from the get-go, we've noted that we're not going to put an actual power line in. We're not going to run buried water. We have, I think our fire department did have about 50 cases of water that was donated. We had it left over from the heat wave in July when the Red Cross was here. And so they received some water that way. And I know that they were having some conversations around how are they getting water to the site. One of the frustrations I can speak about just briefly from AHS's perspective is there's a lack of agencies here in the community that can actually step up and help out. And so they come to the city And we're taking a position that, no, we can't provide, and they have limited number of other hands in the community that are willing to help right now. So they did note that there are 2 agencies, Open Door and Rock Soup, helping out, but still, we struggle to get water and some of the other consumables to the population.
In that case, I would be okay with the city providing water.
For me, I guess I come back to the earlier conversation, however that unfolded, that we have a minimum responsibility. That in my mind, the responsibility really rests with a different order of government. And as a result of that, I think I would like to see us, again, provide the minimum. And if AHS is saying you need to provide water and you need to provide a power source so you can charge your whatever, I would be okay with that. But as they download to us, I think at some point we have to say, I'm sorry, we've done what we need to do. The rest falls on the provincial government and the federal government. So if you think these people are being shortchanged, then step up to the plate. And I think also part of the conversation we found out today is that I think there's a real reluctance to jump in too far, too fast. We've been down that road, and I guess on a certain level, we've been burned in the process. And I think that was reflected tonight in the conversation, that let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's take the baby steps. And if we want to have a conversation about more services, then we'll grow from where we are, as opposed to simply becoming the full-bodied organization that we seem to jump into right off the bat with the last one. So for me, minimal services to keep AHS off our back, and then at the end of the day, throw it back at them. I really, and we may have to get really assertive on that too. So. Other comments?
Yeah, through the chair to all of council, I think, a bit of a flippant discussion with Paul too. We had the discussion saying, we'll continue to push back, and if AHS insists that some of this happen or there be violations, we might have to have that discussion with bringing it back to council and saying, maybe we shut it down then. So I think we will continue to push them and provide what council has directed us to provide. And our hope is that as the winter warming shelter committee moves forward, that this is going to become a non-issue anyways. We just wanted to really make sure we were on track with council's expectation. And that's it from us.
I just got one more question. So, just reading the email from Tyler on 62nd Street, the culverts and stuff put in there. Were we going to pave that this year, or was that on the agenda?
Through the chair to Councillor Hillgartner, the paving is scheduled to occur this year. If we run into bad weather, then obviously we'll have to be delayed until 2022.
Okay, thank you. Just a question since we're out. Airport, we're getting that paved this year, or what's happening at the airport?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, the lighting and the paving are going to be commencing. Today's the 13th, I think, next week.